Hello friends, Jerry Rosa here in the Rosa String Works workshop. Got a project in this morning that we're going to take a look at. Been doing this for 30 some years and seen thousands of guitars. Seen a lot of Silvertone guitars over the years. I don't recall seeing this particular one before. I've seen a lot of them with the F holes. I haven't seen all that many with the round sound holes. And this one's got a few issues, not real terrible or anything. It's missing the nut up here. The neck is loose here from the body. It's wiggly loose, and so we'll have to figure that out. And then we also, the heel on the base of the neck here, the heel plate is missing. And that's about it. As far as I can tell, just by looking at it, I can see that it's a solid spruce top, which is nice. It's got a lot of overspray in the sound hole. I doubt that'll show up in there. You can probably see it shine. If you see it shine, that's not bare wood, so it's overspray. I assume when they finish the top, seems kind of weird that they wouldn't have protected that. The inside brace here probably was re-glued because there's all kinds of bubbles around the glue, but maybe not. All the braces look like they've got that around them, so maybe that was done that way at the factory. I don't know. And as far as I can tell, that's about it. So basically we got to make a new nut, we got to fix the neck and put a neck heel on it, and set her up to play. I don't see any other problems with it, so that's a good thing. We'll keep you informed as we go along. Noticed one more little problem with it, not a big deal, but these tuning keys on the ends here are bent. Bent pretty good. One is pretty hard to turn because of how they're bent. Doesn't probably show up very good in the video, but they're swinging quite a bit. So anyway, I'll try to straighten those out too. I think I can do that. Tuning key was severely bent, and it's pretty straight now. This one's not quite as bent as the other one was, but you can see it's pretty bent. You can see it going up and down. There's up from the camera angle. There's down and back up again. And we should be able to straighten that out too. Basically what I do is I have a pretty strong pair of needle nose pliers. I get it where it's in the up position like so in this case, which is this one's actually in kind of a bad position, unfortunately. And I turn that up. I turn that up toward the end like this, so this is up now, the end of the tuning key. And I grab it close to the plastic, and I basically just twist with the pliers, and they're pretty strong pliers. So you can see that pretty much straightened it out. It's got hardly any bend in it at all now. Little bit of wobble yet. Now that's actually up, so I'm going to bend that a little bit too. And I believe that just about got it perfect now. I can tell you it's much better than it was. And if you're careful, you won't break them. But you got to be very careful. You got to have some experience doing that, because they will break off if you're not careful. And but both of those now are pretty darn straight compared to the way they were anyway. So that pretty much takes care of that. Now we'll go on to the neck issue. Don't know if that'll show up in the video. Doubt it will, how much the neck is moving, but it does move some. This little crack is opening and closing. That's open, that's closed. So I don't think this is bad enough that I'm going to have to take this off of here. I think I can get glue down in there real good, and it doesn't feel all that terribly loose. I think I'm going to get some glue down in there really good, clean out the joint first with some air and some brushes and scrapers and things. Get in there and clean the joint out real good. And then I'll put the neck under pressure backwards with some clamps. You know, I'll squirt glue in there really good, get a brush in there and everything. And then put the neck on back with a lot of pressure and let it set overnight. I've had pretty good luck on some that are no worse than this one. If it was in worse shape than that, I'd probably just go ahead and take it apart. But I think this one will probably hold if we just handle it that way. And if not, my work is 100% guaranteed. They live close, so it wouldn't be a big problem if I had to repair it again. I always like to do the easy thing first. It's kind of like when your car won't start. Don't start by replacing the alternator. You know, check out your battery. It's probably just a battery, or might even be as simple as a loose battery cable. So do the simple thing first, then you go to the next thing. I forced the joint open as much as I could. What I did was I held the guitar like this on the table, and I pressed down on this end of the neck back here. And then I squirted the glue down in there, and I let kind of gravity do its own thing, and used the force of the glue bottle to squirt the glue back in there as far as I could. And now I'm wiggling this up and down, which really pumps that glue back through there pretty good. And now I'm taking the brush and just making really sure that it's all covered inside there. I know what it is. Okay, I'm in another part of the shop, and I just thought I'd show you how I clamped this up. What I did was very simple. I just put it on the edge of a table, edge of a workbench, and I got the neck lined up along the edge of the workbench here. And I put a piece of leather. It's about, it's just belt leather, so it's the thickness of a belt, up here at the neck. That gives me just a little bit of an angle back this way. That lifts the neck up and puts a little pressure. That way when I put this clamp on right here and press down with this clamp, plus I put leather under the clamp, by the way, and I'm pressing down on that neck heel, well, that forces this joint really closed. A lot of glue squeezed out. I've already cleaned up the glue. Now, for my purposes, the kind of glue I like is just plain old wood-to-wood gluing strength is awesome, and it has just enough flexibility to, you know, let that neck move just as much as it needs to and not crack. Where, like, you know, you could probably glue this with super glue or epoxy or something like that. And the problem with those glues, in my opinion, is they're very, very hard, very, very brittle, and they will likely crack and break if there's just the least amount of impact to the neck. So that's why I prefer the Carpenter's wood glues. They just have just a little bit more give to them, yet the strength for wood to wood is incredible. So I believe this is going to hold just fine. I'm going to let it set for 24 hours before I even think about moving it out of that hold there. Well, friends, it's been 24 hours on the Silvertone guitar that the neck has been glued up and in that jig that I made up. And anyway, I checked it this morning, took it out of there, and it really seems solid. I don't think we're going to have any more problems with that neck at all. It's very solid. The neck angle looks good because when putting that piece of leather underneath here makes that angle just perfect when you put that pressure on it. Now I just noticed that lifted the fretboard up off of the guitar here, so the fretboard is now floating in the air up above the top of the guitar. So I'll have to put some glue under there and clamp that back down, so that'll probably create a little bit of a hump there. Actually, it needs to go down anyway based on the way it's looking, so that'll pull that back down. And we need to make the heel here, and we need to make a nut. Then this thing's ready to string up. So I guess I'll get started by putting the glue under here and getting that clamped up, so that'll have time to set, and then I'll make the neck heel. Well, next. Friends, we're just about finished with the Silvertone guitar. Got it about another hour or so into it. Show you the neck heel I made. I made this out of a piece of deer antler. I didn't have any plastic that matched it, so nothing even close. I had some white plastic, but that stood out like a sore thumb. This bone is slightly off-colored, doesn't match it exactly, but it matches it much better than the solid white did, and the black didn't look good at all. So I just decided to go with the bone and made that to fit. It's just perfect. You can't even you can't even feel it there. The tuning keys, all the screws, these black screws, were all very loose, so I took every one of them out and put just a tiny drop of blue Loctite on them, put them back in, and just snugged them up so that they still obviously turn, of course, but then that Loctite should keep those screws from losing out of there, which I think they would have done. several of the other fastening down screws to just fasten the tuning keys onto the peg head were loose too, so I put some toothpicks in there and some glue and filled those holes up a little bit and tightened that up. I attempted to tighten the truss rod on this because the neck has quite a bit of an underbow, more than it should have. The truss rod seems to be froze or as tight as it can go. I couldn't tighten it any additional, and I was afraid I'd twist it off, so I just quit. So I couldn't do anything with the truss rod, unfortunately, and it needs it. It really does need to be a little tighter. I did lower the action down back here on the saddle. I cut that down pretty low. I'm just about as low as I can much lower. The strings aren't going to have any arch over that saddle, so I really can't go much lower. That's about as low as I can go with the bridges on there. And the action's still a little bit high. It's not crazy high, but it's high. The neck joint itself looks pretty good. I also made the nut up here out of a piece of deer antler. So that's all finished. I did not do a fret job on it. With the strings as high as they are, the frets aren't buzzing anyway, so you know, I mean, they're not crazy high. I've played guitars higher, but it's on the high side. Got a pretty good sound. Problem is, I mean, we could always do better. You know, you can go to any extreme with a guitar, and if this was my guitar, I would probably take this whole bridge off, put a new bridge on it, and make it where I could lower the action down some more. But the problem is, there is a budget on this, and we've just about exceeded the budget at this point. So, did about the best we could for the money we could use to work on this thing, and put a new set of strings on it, of course. It's actually a pretty decent guitar. I'm pretty pleased with it. It's got a decent sound, and it's not terribly hard to play. With a capo on it, that'll make it a lot easier to play too, you know, if you use a capo a little bit. I do have the strings down about as low as I can get them up at the nut, so it's not real hard to play open, but if you start coming down the neck, you do notice it. Okay, well that's about it. Hope you enjoyed this one. Thank you.